Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. It's Tamera and Jen. And we are here for our HR Huddle, and we are thrilled to be with you today. Jen and I have a running list of topics now. And so, given the Monday we just had and completing some of our leadership programs and working with a bunch of leaders across the country, we thought we should stop and talk about how we're helping our team members manage their mental health and mindset as we're looking at the end of the year. And as I think we've had the longest busy season of ever, given it's started back in January and got extended to July. Then we have extensions, and now we're going to start preparing for spring busy season. Plus, all the audits been deferred. That we just thought we should stop and talk about that topic. So, Jen, what do you think about it? Do you want to share some initial thoughts that you were having as we were picking this topic?
Definitely. So I guess I'll just start by saying that you don't have to be a tax person or an audit person to, feel some burnout from just what's happening in our country. So, it doesn't matter your profession, I guess. To have been certainly personally affected, all of us, by COVID-19. Some tragically affected, some of us inconvenienced, all of us affected in, just different ways. Our psyches are affected, our livelihoods for some people are affected, just a whole, health, safety, wellness, security feelings, it goes on and on. So the pandemic as one of the stressors, and it's a new stressor. Most of us did not have something like that. Some people were battling disease before, but the pandemic's new. Then we have this whole real focus of energy on racial equity and racial injustice and racism and concerns about that. Many of us are very concerned that should not be happening, and that maybe we haven't been doing enough. And I think many of us feel called to get into action and be a better ally or be in support, or if we are a person of color, we feel need to speak up and speak out more. Maybe I mean, all of us have probably feelings of needing to do something. And then we have the election and the divisive nature of our country right now, and how easy it is to sort of turn a friend into an enemy by making a simple statement about something you believe in. Maybe we've made some of you enemies just in the first little bit of us talking, where you get a sense of what we believe in. And so then there's people, divided lines and worry about election week and what will election day be like, and will we be secure, and what will happen? Will we have a continued president, or if there is a new president, will we have an orderly transition of power like a democracy is supposed to have? And blah, 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 all this worry, right? So, gosh, and bad ads and ugh. So, those things are there. And then client issues, deliverables, due dates, pressure, not enough people, feeling spread thin, blah, blah, blah. So now I don't think this is the negative Nelly huddle. I think this is the HR huddle. So I don't want you to get me wrong to think that
that's a different day.
Yeah, exactly. That's on Thursdays. But I don't want you to think that that's what we're supposed to be fixated on. But we don't want to lie to ourselves and lie to each other and pretend like that stuff hasn't been affecting us. It is. It's affecting each one of us in some way. And so as employers and HR professionals, leaders in our organizations, we have to be really mindful of what's happening with our people. Then they're remote from us, and so we might not see them every day. And they're dealing with other stressors because of things like kids at home, possibly, or homeschooling, or other forms of school that are hard to manage. Lack of childcare for a lot of people. Not everybody has that problem, but a lot of people do. So, I mean, we just have to pay attention to the fact that this sort of ongoing pressure is sitting upon us. And what are we doing to manage it? So what are your thoughts about that piece, Tamara? Like, what could we as HR professionals and leaders do to help our people with this? And, what are some things we should be thinking about there?
Yeah. Well, and I think the first step is what you were just pointing to is acknowledging it's there and giving as HR professionals, and I think as leaders, and if we have career advisors and mentors, that the number one thing I think that we could be doing is checking in to acknowledge, we could be having some of these feelings, if not all of them, and finding out what their experience is and making it safe to be able to express it. Because most of your people want to be team players and positive and get the job done. And, we're just trying to keep our heads down and, push through it. But we can only do that for so long. We can only sustain that for so long. And so if we can understand what that is, I think those check-ins and reaching out one-on-one with people is the first priority. So if we haven't been doing that over the summer, I think we have to stop now. And as we look to the fall, as we've been making transitions with schools, as we've been making transitions, some are opening the offices back up, and we have got this blended environment. What does that look like for our individuals and our team members? And knowing that both one-on-one as your career advisor, but also on my team, when we kick off engagements, what are we experiencing? What does our schedules look like? What are our other priorities that we're trying to balance from other partners maybe? And just learning about that, I think, is super important. And then I think one of the things that I've been hearing some HR professionals have been employing recently is some educational programs in mental health topics. We've been doing that session on how to win while working remotely. And part of it is all the setup, but there's a big part of it that's mindset, making sure that you're taking care of your body, you're getting outside, you're, having time to either meditate or pray or exercise or all the above. I know we've, Jen, been doing a weekly meditation with our team, and it's optional. We've actually started to invite some clients to it. Just taking a time once a week for 15 minutes to meditate. And we use the Calm app to do that. There's a whole bunch of apps that can do that. But just finding some structures and making some of those things available, doing Zoom yoga together as a team, doing Zoom boot camp, those kinds of things to provide some structures or, make sure that we have them so that we're taking care of ourselves and have kind of an outlet for release to decompress from some of those pressures and anxieties that you were just describing, Jen.
Yes. I think also a lot of firms were really good about those town halls, all hands town halls via Zoom or Teams or some other medium. And they were, sort of getting the update from the CEO or the managing partner or the COO or whoever it was that was giving it regularly. And I think that those kind of dropped off after we got past, let's say, maybe June 30th, or they started to feel like too regular weekly or something. So they dropped off and maybe happened once a month or maybe haven't happened for months now. And we would encourage you to get back on those. They don't have to be every week, but to make regular all hands updates and to acknowledge everybody, for the, wonderful effort we're all putting forward in light of all of this stuff. Right. That is conspiring to make us feel so pressured and stressed, and to acknowledge it and to have the top down at your firm sort of say, we understand that we're all under this pressure together. And if you need help, and maybe even, in those regular updates saying we have a mental health assistance program, call this phone number, or, if you need assistance in any way coping, here are, the people in our organization that are there to support you, to make it not be something that I have to be scared to bring up, to make it something that you acknowledge could be happening, and you give me a window, then I could step forward and say, hey, thanks for mentioning that. I really am struggling right now, and here's how. And I think it's very one size fits one. I wish it were like everybody had the same struggle and we could just put a big, group Band-Aid on, but that's not how this is. It's very individualistic, and it's, it requires both a sort of a top-down approach, the programmatic ideas you were talking about, and the one-on-one check-ins. And I think the one-on-ones are going to be the most effective. So make sure you have that shepherd program where you have a certain, set of leaders that all have a certain number of people that they're assigned to check in on, so that we're not saying, everybody owns checking in on everyone, which means no one is checking in on anyone. So I have to be very clear who my 3 people or 4 people I'm supposed to check in on are, and I should check in at least weekly. And how are you should be like what we say I say, how are you really?
Right.
I put the word really at the end because I don't want how are you, which is fine. I'm fine. I'm good. How are you? I don't want that. I want how are you really?
Right.
What's really going on over there with you?
Right.
And that's what will get you what you need to know to figure out how to support your people. And we do have to support them through this. And we can't act like those that are suffering more than others are being wimpy or something. This is a really weird time, and people are affected in very different ways.
Well, and I think that your wimpy comment just made me think of something that, we talk about. One of the ways that we reward our best performers, how we say thank you is more work. And we pile on and we pile on. And because they're winners, they don't cry uncle until they're breaking. And sometimes it's too late. And how it looks is, here's my notice. Or, I'm freaking out. It's not good. It's not, I'm struggling. What can we do to shuffle it? Because they don't want to be seen as wimpy or whiny. And so they just keep saying yes and keep saying yes. And that's what we love about them. But then we break them. And then we're surprised when they give notice, and we're sad. Like, we literally put our head down on the table and we cry. And so we have to really figure that out. And we can be scientific about it. We should be running reports about time and client assignments and look at workload capacity for our people. Somebody should own that in the firm, looking at it across, service lines, across however you're scheduling, industries, however you're doing that, and making sure that, we are balancing that. And then look at, the kind of time that they are putting in. And, some people are just, workhorses, and that's how they work. But at some point, it's not effective. It's not healthy either. But again, I think it's those, our winners, our high potentials that we want to continue with our firm is the ones that we reward by giving them more work. And then also, they don't see what we're doing for capacity planning. They don't know what we're doing from a recruiting. They don't know what we're doing to right size or develop people. And they see people leave, or they just see more clients coming in going, uncle, I can't. And so we have to communicate about that. I think that's the other piece of that.
Right. Well, and Tamera, I think that I would share with you that somewhere in this posting, when we post this thing live, we will post a podcast recording that we did back in January about non-traditional capacity planning and how to staff.
Great idea.
Because for a lot of you, while we were worried that the pandemic would take, the firms down, and that, business would shrink dramatically, and that we would need to cut headcount and all that, for the most part, business has been steady. And in some of your groups, it's just as good or better than it was. And that is creating a really spread thin team that you might be afraid to hire traditional hires right now, but you've got to look at non-traditional staffing then, contractors, fractional people, outsourcing, all sorts of different non-CPA talent, lower cost talent. There's tons of ideas for that. But I just want to say that you and I already did that podcast and told the whole story, I think. And so we'll go ahead and post that with this in social media if we can. And that way, folks can access it, because that's part of the problem. You just don't have enough good people.
Right.
Part of the problem is where Tamera was headed, and I don't think we get to go there today without really derailing everything, but scheduling. Many of you are scheduling work with whoever sold it gets to pick who works on it. We call that the silo method, or the eat what you kill method. I killed it, I bring it in, I decide who gets to eat it. And that's not cool. And what ends up happening is people use their favorites, and their favorites are people that just get totally overloaded, while others are working under capacity. And it's just, and believe me, your really super busy people notice that there's others that aren't as busy, and it's frustrating to them. So that's an anti-retention strategy, is to schedule work unevenly and to allow the leaders to individually schedule work is a terrible mistake because it really creates uneven capacity, which means less profits, less leverage, less profits. It's just like Tamera said, scientifically, you can do a much better job of smoothing work if you use a scheduling system. And probably the best method is to schedule by service line. That's what we would say.
And if you don't have that kind of a scheduling system, you can run the reports right now. So we can assign somebody to run the reports. And from an HR perspective, if we don't have anybody, maybe you can get access to it with your finance group and then take a look at it. And then what leaders to communicate that with. Because you'll see trends. And actually, if we did year over year, you're right, we could derail this, Jen. But, you could look at it year over year and see what happens. But, we know you want to take care of your best people. You want to take care of all your people. But gosh, it breaks our heart when we're not doing it with our best people. So I think the other piece of that is people don't feel like they can take time off because of how busy we are. And in this pandemic, I'm going to take off time and do what? And go where? And many people are not flying anywhere. I know some people have started to fly. You could do road trips. You could just, decompress. I know we're kind of maybe sick of our houses, but we could get outside. I'm in Minnesota. And I keep thinking it's, this transition to fall, I'm in denial about it because I love summer, but it's been glorious. The colors have just been beautiful. The weather's been exquisite. And I keep thinking, what am I going to do in December and January? And so just taking advantage of the opportunity, to be outside, to, finish some projects, to read a book, those kinds of things will de-stress. And so we need to make sure, our people feel like they can take time off and that our leaders are supporting that. We don't let them take time off and then we're making them work, while they're supposed to be time off because they're home anyway. It's easy to fall into that trap. And so from a mental health perspective and to, get that energy boost that we all need, I just think that's super important for us to, figure out what do we need to have happen between now and the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, and it's telling everybody, hey, we need to get time off taken and giving them a list of ideas of things you could do while you're at home to relax and to de-stress or to feel better about things. But also to individually, one size fits one. How are you? When was the last time you had time off? What's your plan before the end of the year? How can we get some days scheduled? And just making sure that our people are taking that time and that they are, like sleeping in is an option for some. Now they have little kids at home. It might not be an option. So maybe they could take turns with their spouse or significant other who gets to get up with the kids. But you said, what are you going to do in winter? When we get there, we're going to have to talk about that. And those of us that have winter with snow, we're going to have to learn snowshoeing and cross country skiing and hike. Thank goodness that Thinsulate was invented because we're still going to have to get out there even before it's safe to be in, back with people again in crowds and things. So we're going to have to use the outside. I'm an outdoor winter runner. So I'm, and you are too, Tamera. We became outdoor runners maybe 4 or 5 years ago and we love it. But, it's still kind of scary to think about sitting around a picnic table in the winter with your family. I don't like the idea myself.
Like hot coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and a fire, and I don't know what else. But anyway, I just think that we're going to have to think these things through with our folks and with ourselves too. I mean, that's the other thing is Tamera and I are talking to you all about it, and I teased Tamera ahead of this because she wrote me the topical ideas that she had, and one of them she wrote their people are burnt, and she wrote it BURNT in caps, huge. And I said to her when we got on this call before we went live, is somebody else that I know burnt? Because we've been going round the clock, pivoting our business to online, even though we're a completely remote business. Our services were delivered through travel, and our clients needed help, and we have been just really working, through weekends sometimes together and doing all kinds of stuff the last 6 months to make sure that our business was healthy and our people were okay and our clients were taken care of. And, just like everybody else, we understand the grind, but, And part of it is maintaining a positive mental attitude, having friends that will keep you positive when you aren't, and then having these practices we talked about. But as HR leaders and firm leaders, let's acknowledge that you could be burnt. It isn't just your people we're worrying about here. And you have to watch for you getting so burnt that you start sort of, I don't know, maybe ignoring other signals that you're getting, or wanting to just give in and go back somehow, or or snapping at people, or you just have to watch it. So you probably need to schedule your time off and make sure, if we have PTO policies that aren't going to let people keep their PTO this year that they might not have used, we need to start communicating things like that. I hope that we'll try our best to have people be able to roll PTO this time. Many of you that know us, we're big fans of open PTO or unlimited PTO. That's what we have. We don't accrue PTO. So we don't carry a financial burden from the PTO, but we definitely know that our people haven't taken enough time this year, and we're going to figure out how to get them more time this year. And we're going to be, I hope, when things open up, whatever that looks like in the future, more open to more PTO. We're going to have to probably try to schedule somebody to have a few days PTO next year, time off, we would call it, almost every week, to make sure we got somebody cycling out to do something for 3 or 4 day weekends or whatever, so we can make sure our people get some rest.
Right. Well, and one last thing, and I know we're about at time here, Jen, but you just made me think about, as HR professionals, and I think this is for, any single person listening to this, but then also in those check-ins. But as HR professionals, who's your shepherd, and get agreement about what your priorities are. And that's what the shepherds should do. They check in with people, because it's one of the things that we've been doing in our business, that we've been meeting. We're like, have to do it, suspicious, defer. So we're deferring to, our less busy season, which we think is February, but we'll see if that's true or not. But for you, here's my priorities between now and the end of the year. And then here's what I'm going to pick back up in December and start making plans for first quarter. And if you do that, you'll have more peace, because I think that's one of the energy drainers, is that Jiminy Cricket's on our shoulder nagging at us that we have to get it all done.
Yes.
And we physically cannot. We do not have enough hours in the day or weeks left in the year, 2020. And so we have to figure that out. And then the shepherds that are checking in your people, where we started, after how are you, what are your priorities?
Yes.
And let's make sure we understand them.
Love it. Tamera, next time, let's talk about everything that HR is doing.
Okay.
And let's talk about all the different roles HR plays normally, but what's really happening in HR right now since the pandemic, because boy, HR has been under siege.
Yes.
And we admire all of you, and we're here in spirit and in actual physical support if you need it, for whatever it is that you're up to. So we really appreciate this opportunity to process ideas, and we welcome comments, thoughts, suggestions, feedback, anything that you have related to these HR huddles. We'd welcome any ideas, and we are grateful for the comments that have come in today, and for all of you who are watching. So thanks for that. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you. Have a great week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.